All right, here we go. Leroy, I don't care what you thought was important during the week. I do not care. I could care less about that. This is my moment, if you don't mind. The Hutchinson Report podcast, take of the week, what I think is important. Leroy Jackson has been fighting with me ever since he walked in the studio. Leroy, when you take a week off, God, you're a feisty guy. Did your wife put you out this week? Did something happen? I guess. What are you taking it on me for? What are you picking on me for? Leroy, I didn't do anything to you. All right, let's get down to business. All right, I've asked a question that we glaringly saw something in the Capitol. We saw a mob, a Trump mob, incited by him. Yes, he was. Incited, yes, they were. Incited by him to go in and wreak havoc in the Capitol. By the way, the first time the Capitol has been breached, A.H. Hoffman, since the War of 1812, 209 years, nothing has happened in the Capitol building. But now we have a tradition. We have a history. And by the way, it may not be over yet because they're also announcing all the groups, all the anti-everything group. They've also announced we're coming after the inauguration on the 20th, too. They're not finished yet. All right. The question then is, Joe Biden, and this is the question, by the way, we're putting out for the audience. Joe Biden has talked a lot about police reform in America. All right, Joe, what are you going to do about it now? You saw that sorry display from the Capitol Police. And by the way, we invited them to come on, of course. You know, the guy resigned, the Capitol Police chief resigned. Well, he's going to resign anyway. The sergeant at arms resigned. Schumer said, we're going to fire you. McConnell beat into it. McConnell fired the sergeant at arms in the Senate. So heads are rolling. The dominoes are falling. But are they really falling? Let's talk about some things. First of all, Georgia. Hats off to Reverend Raphael Warnock. Great win. Hats off to Jon Ossoff. Great win in Georgia. I predicted that. I thought the Reverend would win because Kelly Loeffler, she was weak. She was a nothing. Big stupid woman up there, you know, trying to pretend to be a senator. Even Trump said, you know, you should have picked better candidates. Even he wasn't happy with her. I wasn't so sure about Jon Ossoff because he was going against a seasoned Politico and David Perdue. But nonetheless, hats off to Stacey Abrams. Hats off to all the grassroots groups that got together. And boy, did they do a number. It just shows you, Leroy, what I've said, and Oliver, you have a ground game that's committed. You put some money behind it. You put the troops and the boots on the ground. You can win. By the way, I've said this, A.H. Hoffman, Joe Biden should get down on his hands and knees, crawl if he has to, with supplicating to Stacey Abrams. Please, Stacey Abrams, take over the Democratic National Committee. Bring the Georgia model, which you use there to rev up the masses. Bring it nationally. Bring it to Wyoming. Bring it to Utah. Bring it to Nebraska. Bring it to the red states. And especially bring it to the swing states. We got a template here. Let's do that. All right, my crack news team, they're bringing in, Vino's bringing in. Vino, the House Sergeant at Arms, he's going to resign, correct? Okay, thank you. Calls are growing for Pence, thank you, Ricky, for Pence to use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. Ain't going to happen. The guy's got what age, Hoffman? You got the countdown, right? You're doing the countdown on Facebook. We're down to, what, 12 days now? You know what? Here's what I'm saying. Two things. Forget the 25th Amendment. And also forget, I know they're going to do this on this week. Democrats are going to now try to impeach for a second time Trump. Forget about that. Here's what you would be better served to do. On January 21st, the day after Trump is out of office, forget impeachment, forget the 25th Amendment, sit down with the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, sit down with him or her, and you have clearly about 3 or 4 charges you can bring against now, not President Trump, but Citizen Trump. Citizen Trump, the immunity is off. The immunity is off from state prosecution, by the way. Think about now specific things that you can bring against Trump. Right off the top, incitement to riot. Right off the top. And there are about 3 or 4 other things, too. Some have said sedition. We got all of that. Just incitement to riot. In other words, there is a credible prosecution of Donald Trump for incitement to riot. The Justice Department, the new Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney, and Congress should be looking at that. Forget impeachment. You're not going to go anywhere with that. GOP is never going to go along with that. And by the way, you don't have enough time. Forget all the other stuff, too. You're trying the 25th Amendment, which you can do a full prosecution of citizen Donald Trump, incitement to riot. A clear case could be made there. All right, A.H. Hoffman. You notice how the rats always lead the sinking ship. You notice how they do that. All right, now you got corporate America saying all these crocodile tears now about we're disassociating ourselves from Trump. Headline in CNN. Corporate America divorces itself from Trump. You got Zuckerberg, right? Banning him, A.H. Hoffman, from Facebook. You got the guy over Twitter, banning him from Twitter. But here's the problem with that, A.H. Hoffman. Where were you 4 years ago? When you enabled Donald Trump, for 4 years, corporate America has been enabling him. For 4 years, Oliver, Twitter has been enabling him. For 4 years, Zuckerberg and Facebook has been enabling him. And we can go down the checklist. CNN, the mainstream media. You know my big complaint about that. Been enabling him for 4 years. Now all of a sudden, they don't like him anymore. All of a sudden now they're cutting bait anymore. All of a sudden they're bailing out, Leroy. All of a sudden, help me out with this, A.H. Hoffman. Am I missing something? What happened in 2019 when you didn't bail out? What happened in 2018? That's right. I don't care what you're saying, Ricky. Fake news. It's not fake news. What happened to A.H. Hoffman in 2017 when you didn't bail out? What happened in 2016 when you didn't bail out? Now, 12 days later, the guy's no good anymore. He's no use to you anymore. A.H. Hoffman, the corporations that are supposedly divorcing themselves from Trump, they got deregulation under him. They got the big tax cuts under him. They got their conservative judges under him. They got all of that under him. Now all of a sudden, they don't like him anymore. Now all of a sudden, they're kicking him to the curb. It's like the old thing, the mafia thing. When they turn on you, all of a sudden now, you're an outcast. You're a pariah. But what happened all those 4 years when you got everything from him? You liked him then. You loved him then. He was great copy then. A.H. Hoffman, CNN, their ratings went through the roof because of Trump. Every time the guy belched, every time the guy broke wind, every time he did that, guess what happened? It was a tweet. And you, for 24 hours on the news cycle, we were deluged with that. We were bombarded with that. You enabled him every step of the way. You enabled him. Now all of a sudden, A.H. Hoffman, Leroy, Ricky, Wendell, Vino, Oliver, you don't like him anymore. All of a sudden, you kick him to the curb now. All of a sudden now, you kick him off the bus. Am I missing something here? It just is mind-boggling. You've been listening to the Hutchinson Report. Podcast take of the week.
The Hutchinson Report.
There will be major battles within the Senate, the House, Congress, and the White House, whoever the president is.
Your host, Earl Afari Hutchinson.
We got to cut this. We got to cut that. We got to raise taxes. Why? Because you've got to raise that money somewhere, and we know 1% corporate cronies, they're not going to pay their share.
Tune into the Hutchinson Report, Saturdays at 9 a.m.
Once again, it falls back on the shoulder of guess who? Joe and Jane, blue collar and poor person. There is no free lunch.
Right here on KPFK.